Welcome along this evening. Tonight's for yoga class. I'm just going to use a block as a prop, and we're not going to use it too much. We're going to use it to the start, so that I can come down into hero's pose. So knees are together, feet are out wider than the hips, and trying to sit back down onto the blocks so the sitting bones are actually resting. Now, if you have the knee two blocks because your knees are at the point where you're stopping yourself from breathing, that really wouldn't be yoga. That would be something else. So take care of yourself. If it hurts, don't do it. Move out. Adjust yourself as you need to. Remember to breathe in and out throughout the class. Try and make the class your own. So if you need to add any variations in, especially if you're working around any injuries or restrictions on one side of your body, feel free to do that. Let yourself measure how well you think you've done in the class by how much you've enjoyed it, rather than the performance-orientated mental images of what you think postures need to look like. We'll take a little breath there, and I'm going to warm the wrists up a little. We'll work a little bit more into them, but to start with, I'll bring the fingers together, interlaced, and then forearms together, just rolling around the wrists gently. And I'm going to take it in both directions. We're just loosening up. It's the evening time, so hopefully we've had a day of moving around a little bit, so it's not like it's first class early in the morning when the body's a little bit stiff. I'm going to stretch out those fingers a little bit more and those hands, just give them a little shake. And then I'm going to lift up, having just said hello to my knees a little bit. Bring my toes together, take the knees apart. I'm going to take the block out to the side and towards the back of the mat. Let's pause, just allow myself to have the palm of the hands down to the floor, stretching the fingers out. So lifting the heel of the hand a little bit, you get this slow rock from side to side, keeping the knuckles and the fingers pressing against the floor. So it's only a little raise of the heel of the hand, sort of adjusting the weight really. And we'll turn the fingers out wide. The thumbs point forwards. And using this time to start getting used to drawing the belly in. I'm going to turn the hands towards me, thumbs out. So your elbow, your funny bone, points towards you. You can draw the shoulders back. You still want the heel of the hand on the floor. Trying to rotate the arms around nicely. Getting that deeper stretch through the wrist and particularly down the forearm. And then I'm simply going to just press into the shins to lift up a little bit, taking the weight out of the hands, flip them over, give the fingers a little wriggle, the palm face to the sky. Then with the other hand, drawing the shoulder back a little bit so we're getting a nice deep bend into the wrists, and then coming into child's pose. I'm going to take that down slowly. Lift the arms by coming onto the fingertips, letting the head sink against the floor. And we'll start to walk the hands back. So we can lift up onto all fours, and we'll stretch the legs out gently. Say hello to your feet and your ankles. And then we're going to lift ourselves into a plank. So we're going to push out through the heels, Get those legs nice and straight. Feet about hip distance apart. Make sure your shoulders are over your wrists, pressing evenly down through the hands. Pushing away from the floor, drawing the belly in, slightly rounded across the back of the shoulders. Try and keep the head in line with your body. Now we're going to lift it up into a down dog. And just as you begin to feel that you've stretched back far enough, we'll come up onto the tiptoes and start to take tiny little steps with the feet to inch them into the front of the mat. We're loading into the shoulders slowly, and getting a little bit of a stretch into the hamstrings. We try to keep the legs straight, the heels off the ground, as far forward as we can. It's a little tricky to breathe. Let's get a little warmer. Ooh, and then eventually your legs and your arms might run out of length of equalness. You have to come up onto the fingertips and walk your feet in that last little bit. Bring the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back, soften the knees, and we'll let ourselves lift up slowly on the exhale. Put the arms out wide on the inhale and see if we can bring the palms together above the head. And use the exhale to come back down. And inhaling up. And exhaling down. A couple more. The last one. Enjoying that feeling of stretching the toes out a little bit. As I bring the hands down towards the hips, I'll inhale the hands in towards the heart. Soften the knees, draw the belly in, hinge forwards, coming down. Begin to sink into the hips. I want the feet wide enough and parallel to allow myself to actually get the ribs and the thighs to touch. And I'm going to take the hands forwards. I'm going to lift up about halfway, just hinging from the hips. So the bottom stays pretty much where it was. Take the hands behind my back on the exhale, just pressing the palms together. And inhale, bring the back palms together. So I'm turning the hands around a little bit and getting some work into the shoulders as well as moving them from back to front. Continuing slowly. I'm going to take hands forwards and lift up onto the tiptoes. I'm trying to get a nice line between the hands, shoulders, hips. Keeping the core muscles drawn in. Last little breath. Let the heels come down, bring the hands in towards the heart. Rise through the legs to lift up. Little shake out, wriggle of the toes. Take a breath and scoop the arms wide. Inhaling up. Hands through the heart. Hinge at the hips. Down we come to the floor. Then take a breath and send the left foot back into a lunge. Drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Bring the hands alongside the body. The cartwheeling, that left hand forwards and up into warrior two. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Let the hands come to the floor. In the back heel. Fingertips. Push off the back toes into that forward bend. Hands under the hips. Let ourselves lift up on the exhale. Keep the arms high. Hands into the heart. Hinging at the knees and the hips. Come down. Taking the breath. Right leg back into lunge. Rocking the heel in. Again, just lifting up into warrior two. And hands into the heart. Towards the front we rotate. Hands come down. And stepping it into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Lift up. Put the hands high. Bring the hands through the heart. Hinging down to the floor. Sending the left foot back. Dropping the heel in. Lifting into warrior two. This time we take the hands high towards the front of the mat and down to the floor. Stepping back into down dog. And then come forwards into a plank. Take a few breaths here. I'm going to bend the elbows back and come all the way to the ground. And then taking the hands towards the bottom of the ribs, rolling the heels out a little bit, inhaling up, so we get low cobra, exhaling down, a little squeeze of the shoulder blades together at the top. The number 2, 3, 4, and then 5. There's very little weight in the hands. Then we'll take the hands forward, like we're going to do a press up with the elbows high. We'll come onto the fingertips. We change the breath around, take the long breath in. Keep the belly drawn in. On the exhale, we press into the hands and draw the chest forward so we lift up higher. Inhale on the way down. We'll take 4 more of those. And we'll take 1 more. Then back to the ground. Bring hands to the bottom of the ribs. Tuck the toes under. We're going to peel away up onto all fours. Send the hips up and back. And we're into down dog. We'll draw the left knee into the chest and bring the foot through. Take a little breath. Step it forwards into the fold. Hands onto the hips to lift up. Stepping forwards if you travel. Put the hands high. Hands through the heart. Soften the knees, hinging back down to the floor. Take the breath in, and let's send the right foot back. Drop into warrior 2. Just swooping the arms forward. And like we did before, we take the arms high, out towards the front of the mat and down. Stepping it back into down dog. And we'll come forward into the plank. Hold again for a few breaths, just pushing out through the heels, pressing the hands down. So when it's thumping, it's very active, pushing away from the floor. But there's a nasty smell down there. We try to get as far away as we can from it. We'll bend the elbows back on the next exhale to come to the ground. Untuck the toes, heels out, hands to the bottom of the ribs. Those are 5 low cobras. Right up. Exhaling down. So as you breathe in, allow yourself to use your diaphragm to help with the lift. Number 3. Number 4. 5. Hands go wide, fingertips, elbows high, breath in. Use the exhale to press and lift forwards. Coming down, that's 4 more. Try to keep those shoulders nice and wide away from your ears. As you come down, there's a little bit of a chance to reset the shoulder blades back. Last 2. One. To the bottom of the ribs, toes tucked under, rest away from the floor. All 4, and then lifting into a down dog. We'll draw the right leg through, and the hands into a lunge. Take a breath, stepping forwards, hands on the hips, off knees, and lifting. Again, just traveling forwards if we need to. Get hands high on the inhale, hands through the heart, off knees, and exhaling down to the floor. Taking the breath and sending the left foot back, dropping the heel in, swooping up into our warrior 2. Return the palm on the front hand into reverse warrior. Wrapping the rear hand around gently. Coming back. I'm going to scoop the arms up and out towards the end of the mat. Taking a breath in. Stepping gently back into down dog. And then up onto the tiptoes. Going to walk the feet in gently to the front of the mat. And waddling the last bit. So just get a little bit of enjoyment out of coming almost into a handstand position. Hands onto the hips. Soften the knees, we're sitting back down. Taking the arms out in front. So this time we're going to lift the heels. So the hands are sort of in a chair pose position. The heels are off the ground and we're squatted down so our heels and buttocks are pretty close. Close squat. Come out of this, we'll bring the hands down and let the hips lift. Bring the hands onto the hips from that forward bend, we'll lift up. Put the hands high on the inhale. Bring the hands through the heart. Sinking down to the floor. Right leg back into the lunge. Heel drops in. Warrior 2 lift. Again into that reverse warrior. And then coming back. Moving the arms high. Out to the front of the mat and down. Go back into down dog. And then you'll lift up onto the tiptoes to waddle in towards the front of the mat. So we're using the core muscles to lift the hips up. So we're making space for the legs. Lighter you can make your body feel. To keep those legs straight. And then waddling the last little bit in. Take a little breath, soften the knees, go into the squat. The hands come out in front, so thighs and arms are aligned. Lift the heels, squatting down into our second toe balance. We're not sinking all the way down, we're just sort of lifted maybe an inch higher than we could get to as a sort of a lowest point. And then we bring the hands to the floor. And the hips high into a forward bend. And hands under the hips. So lift up. Take hands out in front of the chest. Soften the knees over the toes. And then we're going to take the left hand up to the sky, rotate it over towards the back of the mat, turning the chest to the long side, but keeping the knees and hips pointing forwards. We'll bring it back across over the top. And then squat down deep, resting the ribs on the side, flipping the hands behind as the head drops. We'll come forwards again, resting deep, rise to the leg. Hands come out in front again. That right arm comes up over the top, towards the back of the mat. Keep a little softness in the knees. Top arm comes up and over. Squat down. Looping the arms back. And we're forwards again. Driving from that low squat position, keeping the body long. Make sure we don't sort of cave into the back. Soften the knees. Hands out in front. Left arm up and over. Listen towards the rear hand. Inhale it up. Swoop it down. Coming forwards again. Hands out in front. Soften the knees a little. Right arm up and over. Towards the back of the mat. Just looking to your rear hand. Inhale it up and over. Down to the floor we go. Moving forwards. Driving out through the legs. We'll bring the hands into the heart. Take a breath in. Hinge at the hips. Down to the floor. We'll send the left leg back into the lunge. Drop the heel in. We'll come into warrior two. Reverse warrior. Back to warrior two. Extended side angle. We'll lengthen out. Bring the hand down to the floor, top hand to the sky. Let's scoop the top arm up and over and out towards the front of the mat. So the chest faces to the floor. We'll walk the fingers around to the long side, turning the toes in. Now you're going to keep your body parallel to the ground at this point. Soften the knees a little. Put the arms out wide and then float them behind your back to interlace your fingers, drawing your hands towards your tailbone. Then on your exhale, you can hinge from the hips, folding forwards. And then we'll lift the shoulders towards the sky and drop the hands out to that long side of the mat. Begin pressing into the feet slowly. You want to lift very carefully so we don't sort of affect our balance in a negative way. Just slow, smooth movements. Shoulders away from the ears. When you lift your shoulders to the sky, the more space there is, the easier it is for them to drop over that long side of the mat. And then you get to play with your balance ball. Okay, last breath in. We'll let the hands come to the floor. Walk the fingers around to the front end of the mat. From the lunge, we step forward. Bring the hands under the hips. We'll lift up. With the arms high. Hands into the heart. Hinging at the hips, we're coming down. Bending the right leg back on the breath. Dropping the heel in, hands alongside the body. Warrior two. Reverse warrior. Coming back. Extended side angle, so we lengthen out. We'll come all the way down to the floor. Again, we take the hand over the top. Bring both hands onto the inside, press to the ground. Walking around again, alongside. Going to do exactly the same again. So toes in, little bend in the knees, body parallel to the ground. Float the arms out wide, and then behind your back they go. Interlace the fingers, get a good lock, shoulders out of the way. And then on the exhale, into the hips. Inhale, turn the hands high and up and over. Start to work into the legs and squeeze the thighs a little more together. Okay, we'll let the hands come down to the floor. Lifting up halfway, we walk the fingers into the front of the mat, taking a breath, and we're ready to step into that forward bend. The hamstrings should be warmed up by now, and lower back. So off we lift up. And hands into the heart. We'll just take a 30-second breather there. Bring the arms high again. So your feet are parallel to each other if they were slightly adrift. Then through the heart, we hinge at the hip, knees bend. Coming down, taking a breath. And sink again into the squat, the chair pose. Take the hands out wide and forward. And then bowing down to the ground and take a breath. And we're going to step the left and the right foot to the back of the mat into down dog. One of the things that we can do in down dog is sort of a down dog squat side plank. To do that, you want to make sure that your feet are at least a distance apart of your own feet so you've got room to move. And take a little breath. We'll spin on the balls of the feet, taking the heels to the left. We'll soften the knees to bring the bottom close to the heels and draw the right hand along the ground into a side bend, or into a side plank. We're taking the top arm forwards so the legs straighten out. We'll come back, moving the feet around as you need to, turning yourself gently back into your down dog. We'll take the feet over to the other side so you can see it from the back. So you soften the knees, squat heels, and draws back. The legs drive out into that side plank, taking the arm towards the front of the mat. We soften the knees again and turn ourselves gently back, down dog. We'll take it over to the first side again, coming back. Right arm lifts up and over, stretching out. Bring it back in, scooting ourselves into dog. We'll go to the opposite side. Driving through the legs and over. Coming back. And we've got one more to go to each side. The heels to the left. Back. To dog. And then the final rotation. Over to the left side. Stretching out. Back into squat. Hand to the floor to down dog. Walk hands to the toes. Into a forward bend. We're at the back end of the mat, hopefully. Hands on the hips, soft knees, and a flat back to lift up. Down a little breather as we take it out, walking into the front of the mat. And then we're ready to take the breath in and high. Hands into the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. Now take a little breath and send the right foot to the back of the mat into a lunge. I'm actually going to drop the back knee. I'm tucking the toes. I'm going to take the left hand forward into a twist. So drawing the chest towards the thigh. And on the exhale, as your hand moves towards the back of the mat, we'll bend the knee. Oops, see if we can find that foot with our fingertips and draw the heel in towards the body. Now you can, if you want to, let the front knee hang out to the side, or you can make an effort to draw it in towards the center line. It really is your choice. As long as you're able to turn your chest up towards the sky. Take a last breath there, release the foot to the floor, bring it back, lift the back knee, take a breath, push off the toes into the forward bend, hands onto the hips, we'll let ourselves lift up. We'll inhale high, hands through the heart, exhaling down, the left leg goes back into lunge, drop the knee down again, this time the right hand comes around, we draw the heel in, find our foot, usually back there somewhere. Sometimes you have to move around a little bit in your chest. Get some rotation in, a little bit of a bend in the spine to move into it, but eventually you can find your foot back there. So get into that front thigh, hip flexor. Still working on the shoulders, into the twist and the rotation. Okay, release that foot to the floor. Move the arm over, bring the foot down on the back leg. We lift the back knee, take a breath. We're into the forward bend again. Front of the mat. Hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift up. So this time as we take the hands high, we'll take that into a back bend. So you want to press the feet down and the hips actually back a little bit. And then bring the hands in towards your heart. And we'll exhale down to the floor. We're going to step back, left and right into down dog. And we're going to come into side plank again, but we're going to take a foot to the outside edge of the mat. So as you start to come forward into your plank, we'll draw the right foot to the outside of the edge of the mat, about halfway down the mat. We'll roll the left side edge of the foot to the floor as the right hand comes up. Now you can press into that right foot, press into your left foot to lift the hips a little higher, and right hand to the sky. And then we're going to let ourselves bring the hands back. So we'll step back, down dog, and take a little breath. I'm going to scissor the right leg to the sky, draw the knee in towards the chest, bring the foot through between the hands, take a little breath, and we'll step forward into the fold. Hands under the hips, lifting up. The hands come high, we're adding that little back bend in, starting to look to the ceiling. Bringing the hands through the heart again. Exhaling down. We'll take right to the left, down dog. And then this time the left foot comes halfway up the mat as you move into the plank, is the easiest place. You roll onto the side edge of your right foot. You can lift the hips and the hands. Remember to press down through the feet. Hold it for about 5 breaths. So we want to be able to feel the side oblique muscles working. The only way you get that is if you really do lift quite fiercely. Lots of energy, lifting up. Now we'll ease the hands back to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. This time we'll scissor the left leg high. Knee into chest and foot through. Taking a breath. And stepping forward into the fold. Hands onto the hips, lift up. Take the arms out wide, inhale high, into the back bend. Hands into the heart. Breath in. Exhaling down. We're taking left and right to down dog. This time we're going to come into a plank. We're going to lift the right leg. We'll bend the knee. And we're going to roll onto the side edge of the left foot, drop the right foot over the opposite side. So we come into a side plank. We've got one foot on the floor. You might want to call that flip dog, but we came from plank. If you feel like opening the chest, you can. Sometimes it's nice to extend the hand forwards. That's top on. Take a last breath here. Come back to down dog. Take a little breath. And then we'll scissor right leg to the sky. Bring the knee into the chest this time, foot through between the hands. Take a little breath. We're stepping into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Lifting up. Inhale high. Little back bend. Bring the hands into the heart. Soften the knees as we come down. Right leg, left leg. Down dog. Coming forwards into plank. We'll lift the left leg. Bend the knee. We'll roll onto the right foot edge side. Dropping the toes to the ground. Lift it up. Lifting the hips high. So it's a side plank. We want to keep the chest side on. Flip dog, we tend to sort of roll into the shoulder a little more and drop the shoulders back behind us. So there is a subtle difference. The other thought is that we hold it for a lot longer as well, generally. One more time for breath in. Bring your hands to the floor. Ooh, back into down dog. We'll scissor the left leg high, into chest and through. Take a little breath. And we'll step forward into the fold. Hands onto the hips. Take a little breath. Let ourselves lift up. One more breath in with a back bend. Hands through the heart and exhale down to the floor. Step in right and left into down dog. This time we're going to take the dog proper. I'm going to scissor the right leg as high as I can. And then I'm going to open the hips a little bit. Bend the heel in towards the buttocks. I'm going to roll again on the left foot. Taking it over slowly. Oops. Put my foot on the radiator. Didn't expect that to happen. And then opening the chest a little more this time. Hips are high. We come back and try to scissor the leg into that down dog position. Whew. We'll take a scissor with the left leg high, knee into the chest and foot through. Coming into the forward bend on the exhale. Hands under the hips to lift up. So one more side to play with. Inhale up. Little back bend. Hands into the heart. All the way to the floor. We'll take right and left. Down dog. And we're going to scissor the left leg slowly up. And bend the heel in towards the butt. Roll slowly over. And then on the exhale, we'll come back. Scissoring the leg high. Foot to the floor. Scissor the right leg. Roll the knee towards the chest and the foot through. Into the lunge. And into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. And exhale up. Let's do the arms high again. This time just bring the hands above the shoulders. Hands into the heart. Exhaling down. To the floor. We're going to step the left foot back into lunge. I'll bring both hands onto the inside. I'm going to walk the fingers around. Put a long edge. Turn the toes in. And I'm going to start to walk my hands around towards the rear foot. And if you feel confident enough to take your hands onto the ankle, you can, or you can keep your fingertips on the floor. And we'll draw the chest towards there. knee on the rear leg. And it needs to be making sure we're trying to fold rather than pulling the chin and the neck into the posture. Kind of try and keep the neck nice and loose, shoulders wide, elbows wide. One more breath. Let's start to walk the fingers around. We'll take it in a semicircle. So we give a little bit of time for joints, discs to acclimatize. We'll take ourselves into the second side. Same rules apply. If you're happy to take the hands to the ankle. We're just straddling into our wide leg forward bend. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor. Walk around in that semicircle again. So we're completely side on. Take a final breath here on an exhale. We're going to fold down. And then lifting up on the breath in. I'm going to start to zigzag my toes in gently towards each other. Now, at some point, you might need to make some space, lifting up onto the fingertips. When you're ready, feet are parallel. We're going to lift the heels off the ground again. We're squatting down, taking the hands away from the floor. Just that inch higher, then completely collapsing into the heels. Now I'm going to let the hands come to the ground. I think that last little bit into the squat, and then just simply take a half turn towards the front of the mat so that I can take my legs out in front. I'll just move a little closer towards the front edge, having a little wriggle out. Nice and tall in the body. Dandasana. Just rolling the thighs inwards a little bit. Enjoying stretching out the heels to the end of the mat. Last breath in there, we'll just bring the feet back in. We're going to move towards bridge pose, but before we do that, we're going to let ourselves ease down towards the floor on an exhale. And we'll bring the feet in towards the bottom, so we are slowing down a little bit. We have still got a little bit more work to do. We're going to draw the left knee in towards the body and just take the hands around the shin lightly and let that knee extend towards the floor. So my legs, they tend to drive out towards the side edge, towards my armpit a little bit. So apply that little bit of pressure. Use the toes of the right foot to walk the foot as far forward as I can, and then slide the heel along the ground so that I can press out through that heel as well. So flex foot, toes towards the sky. Getting just a little bit of rotation inwardly. And one leg feels very energized, the other one feels like it's getting a nice stretch. And then I'm going to release the left foot. Draw the right leg heel along the ground, just slide that along. I know it's not easy on the sticky mat. I'll draw the right leg in, turn the hands around the shin again, just easing that in. And we start with a few breaths here, just easing that leg open. And so walk that left foot forwards. We run out of toes. And slide slowly away. I'm going to release that foot to the floor. This time we'll just draw the other leg in towards us. And we're going to take the feet in preparation for bridge pose. So we'll make sure the feet are a good hip distance apart. I tend to take my fingertips down to my heels. And then I know that my heels are underneath my knees, and I also know exactly how wide apart they are. I have the shins vertical to the sky. I'm going to bend at the elbows, so the palms face in and the fingers point up towards the sky. It's like I've got robot arms, so I can get my elbows really tight into the side of the body. Now take a little breath, start to press into the back of the arm, start the tailbone away from the floor, and let myself lift into my bridge pose. So I'm going to take the hips up slowly, incrementally, just getting more and more open. Rolling the shoulders underneath a little bit as well, adjusting those elbows in. Now I want to try and imagine where my knees are in terms of the distance from the floor. I'm going to start to work pressing down into my left leg, take my body weight so I can come up onto the tiptoes of my right foot. On the next exhale, I'm going to see if I can extend my right leg out, just following. So my knees stay aligned together, pointy toes. I try and keep the bridge tight as it was and get square to the ground. Press into those elbows as much help as I can get. And then I'm going to extend the leg up towards the sky, pointing the toes. See if I can get a little bit more lift. The leg vertical to the sky above the hip. Last breath in. I'm going to draw the knee in towards the chest, heel in towards the butt, and then let the foot come slowly to the floor as I exhale with control. The hips stay high. Make any adjustments that you need to. I'm going to go into the second side immediately. So we'll take a breath in, start to press into the right leg, down through the arms, hip toe, left leg, extend out so the toes point out, so the knees are aligned to each other. And then we'll inhale the leg high, as vertical as we can get, pointy toe. And we'll draw the knee in towards the body, heel in towards the butt, foot gently to the floor, and then we'll start to unravel the spine to bring it back down gently to the floor. I'll walk the feet in towards the body. I'll draw the right knee in towards me, taking the hands around the back of the thigh, low down to the groin. I'm going to extend that heel towards the sky directly above the hips. So I press the heel high, so drawing the belly down and the lower back into the floor. The leg is actually pushing into the hands. And it's that movement up and down that actually straightens the leg for you. You don't even consider the knee. It doesn't really come into the equation in terms of movements. I'll ease that foot down to the floor. We'll take it into the opposite side. Send that out. And then we'll bring that foot to the floor as well. I'll let both knees come in towards the body. I'm going to wrap the arms on the shin. Draw the knees in. Rolling gently over towards my right side. Hands come underneath. Let's press away from the floor. Lift them up. I'm going to use the block again. I'm just going to cut that underneath. And lengthen the legs out. Sit up nice and tall, just to wriggle through the sitting bones. I'm going to take the left foot under and out towards the right hip. We're going to come into a seated twist. I'm going to take the right foot over, check both sitting bones are still attached to the ground, tilt the pelvis forwards, swoop the left arm up and over towards the right side. And we'll come to the other side. Again, just taking all those precautions to set ourselves up. And then rotating over towards the left side. Coming back again, legs out in front to start with. Give them a little shake, and then if you can, we'll go for heel to heel alignment. In the floor. For legs, if you're not able to do heel to heel, that's fine. We'll take the fingers forwards a little bit, get plenty of space in the spine, and hinge over the hip, and allow ourselves to bring the hands down and out towards the front of the mat, keeping the spine nice and long. And coming down slowly means that we can hinge from the hips rather than rounding into the upper back. We actually kind of let the chest and the belly sink evenly to the floor. Keep it nice and relaxed. We use the hands to walk our way back in. And we're going to move gently into Shavasana. Now, that lower back has done a lot of work. There's been a lot of forward bends, a lot of chair poses. So if your back is feeling like it's done a lot of work and it's a little bit sore, then the knees stay high, feet wide. Roll in gently. And we let the knees rock together like a little tent. And the hands out by the side of the body, palms to the sky, roll the shoulders underneath. It's the back. Still feels like it's a happy place. It's not feeling tired, then you can just use your toes to wiggle your feet to the end of the mat, corner edges, and let the toes roll out to the side edge. We're just going to let ourselves sink and relax silently so that we can just listen to our breath and our heart. We'll start to breathe a little deeper. Our fingers and toes to gently start moving. And then we'll build that into some wrist and ankle movements as well. We'll allow ourselves to stretch in any way that feels good. Then just slide the heels along the ground if they haven't already come towards you. And then finally let the knees come in as we take the hands lightly around the shin. So let ourselves rock a little from side to side. Take the breath in and see if you can time an exhalation to roll completely to your right side with your legs. Then turning your chest over. Bring the hands underneath. Use your exhale to lift gently away from the floor. And then come back into an easy sitting posture, whatever that is for you. Bring hands to the heart as we take the breath in, closing the eyes. We're going to slowly exhale and chin drop. Drawing the belly in, we'll bow to the floor slowly, sealing our practice for the evening. On the inhale, we'll let the spine build with the breath until it's easy to lift the head, let the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'll see you on the mat again soon.